And hello, my Grots and Gets, and welcome to another episode of Happy Cruppin' War Gaming. Today, we have got to figure out what happened to the boys in the latest data slate. Can we still run them? What's going on? What are all the stories? Well, let's break it down. What are we actually going to be talking about in today's episode? Well, we got to figure out what's going on with the orcs. And as you can see, there's a little foreshadowing. The squirrel is not the happiest squirrel alive. Now, that being said, the squirrel's not dead. The squirrel's got a lot of life in him. He's just not super excited right now. So that can give you a little foreshadowing of what's happening. All right, so basically what we got to figure out today is we're going to figure out how general rules changes are going to really be affecting us, and then specific rules changes affecting us, how the points change, what that does. Then we're going to talk about what detachments are actually the most viable in the Orks Codex. And then lastly, I'm going to give you a few sample army lists of how I'm pivoting and what I'm going to be doing. Before we go any further, I just want to give a really quick shout out to the Baron of Dice, who makes the best, most awesome custom dice out there. He has made some pretty freaking incredible custom dice for the channel. These are the official Happy Cruppin' Wargaming dice. You can get them in packs of 25. They look absolutely amazing. I think I'm doing a terrible job of showing this off because of the lighting. There we go. They're super sick. They've got this really dope matte finish. I absolutely love the color scheme, and they're really, really cool. All purchases of this will directly affect the channel. I've got a link down below for you. It only works on these. The link will give you 5% off, I think, of the entire website. But the purchase of these dice exclusively actually support the website or support the channel. So really big shout out to the Baron, because these dice freaking rock, and I would absolutely encourage you to go check out his work for some of your custom dice needs. But if you want to support the channel, you can definitely pick up a pack of these or two of them, and that would be freaking awesome. So let's move on into the episode. We have to figure out how we fared in this balanced data slate. Well, first things first, what are the general rules changes and how are they really affecting us? Well, one of those is the new stratagem rules. And one of the biggest problems for orcs is when they're going into an army that has armor of contempt, because armor of contempt is a nightmare for an AP1 army, because our army is primarily AP1. We do have some AP2. We used to have AP3, but not anymore, as we might talk about in a little bit. So all of our boys, all of our beast snaggers, all of our freaking squig hogs, everything is AP1. And one of the worst things in existence previously was when you would attack a unit of Marines, they would use Armor Contempt, and then you go into another unit and the captain would let them use Armor Contempt again for free. Because no longer can that happen. Now, if you don't know, the way the wording of all of these words of all these types of abilities has changed, it's no longer, it doesn't matter how the ability is worded. You can never double up on a stratagem unless the ability specifically calls that stratagem out. Now, all of those, you get a free stratagem. They all do the same thing, which is you just subtract 1 from the cost of the stratagem. It doesn't let you do anything for free. It doesn't let you do anything for, again, unless like it's the Hexmark's ability, because the Hexmark ability has an ability that says you get to use the Overwatch stratagem for free, even if that stratagem has already been used. So in that scenario, yes, they can double up on stratagems, but with like a captain's general ability, they cannot double up on stratagems anymore. They just simply reduce the cost of a stratagem by 1. It's also no longer battle tactic locked, which is actually generally good for the game in general, because the whole battle tactic thing was a little weird. But now, that is a big change. And I think that actually helps orcs a ton, because now orcs don't have to really worry about having multiple units with these armor reduction abilities. They don't have to worry about multiple units having these fight on a death abilities. It's only going to be the one that's going to get buffed up. And that really does support the orcs gameplay quite a bit. Then the next really, really big change is going to be the Vect abilities no longer affect a specific stratagem. And I actually like this one a lot. It's a good and a bad one. So I put it next here, but it's not like a terrible one, right? Instead, now what's happening is that all Vect abilities, which used to increase the cost of a battle tactic by 1 CP, now they're replaced by a new ability called the Reign of Confusion. And what that does is it means that that unit, say the Calidus Assassin, will now have a 12-inch permanent aura of increasing the cost of all stratagems by 1 CP, which is very strong. However, most of those super squirrely like units that have those abilities are very, very squishy, and they want to be really far away from direct melee action, which is exactly where orcs want to be. So it's like kind of a buff, kind of a nerf. I think it's slightly more of a hit to the orcs, but it's going to be honestly a hit to basically every army in the game. So that's not really orc specific. So let's talk about some of the more specific orc changes that have occurred. These are the rules changes for the orcs. Here's the deal. Meganobs. Meganobs got punched in the dick. These bad boys, they used to have a feel no pain that was at 4 up during the WA, and now it went all the way up to a 5 up. That is a massive change. Now, to be fair, Meganobs were quite good. I certainly don't think they were so good that they need to have that change. I think they could have done it with just points, but this is what they chose to do. And as you'll see in just a minute, it's not all GW did to Meganobs. So Meganobs Feel No Pains went from a 4 up all the way up to a 5 up, which is a dramatic decrease in the durability. Then we went to a bunch of changes for Green Tide. Green Tide previously on all of their boys, they just always had a 5 up invulnerable save, and then you would get to reroll saves of 1. Now they only have a 6 up invulnerable save when there's 9 models or less, and you no longer get to reroll saves of 1. Now this is not actually the biggest deal. It's not really the biggest issue, in my opinion, because the rerolling save rolls of 1 was, on average, a 5.5% increase in durability. And for most of these like big mobs of boys that you're going to be taking, these 20-man blobs, they're always going to be 20-man blobs, and you're going to be regenerating models. So in all reality, it's like you're always going to have a 5 up invuln anyway until it's time for them to die. So I don't really think that this is the biggest deal. It doesn't really bother me for Green Tide. Then what they did is they also changed 2 of the key stratagems for Green Tide. First one was Tide of Muscle. You're no longer adding the round number to the charge roll, because previously what you could do is you could take a weird boy and teleport in round 4 and add 4 to your charge roll. So you'd get a 9-inch deep strike, for lack of a better term, and you'd add 4 to your charge roll. So it'd be roughly a 5-inch charge after teleporting, which is really, really strong to steal like opponents' home fields and things like that. So they've changed Tide of Muscle to it's no longer add the round number to the charge roll. Instead, it's now you get to reroll the charge and you get to add +1, which is still actually a good strat. It's just not as good as it was. Then they also changed the Go Get 'em strat. This was the one that would allow for the reactive move after you were shot. It's no longer a flat 6-inch move if you have 10 or more models. Instead, now it's you get to re-roll the D6 for your move. This is a weaker stratagem. It's still a pretty good strat. So basically what it is now, if you have 9 or less models after the shooting has occurred, then you get to move D6 inches. If you have 10 or more models, you get to move D6 and you get to re-roll the D6 to see how far you get to move. It used to be just a flat 6, so this is a pretty big hit on the stratagem, but it's still a good stratagem. Now, all of these changes by themselves, honestly, no big deal. The problem is there's a few more changes that they were stacked with them. And GW has been getting a lot better at these balanced data slates, but they're still not quite understanding that a lot of times when you balance things, you should change the points or you should change the rules. Changing both at the same time, it's a bit of a problem. So let's look at some of these points changes that we have. All right, Snickrot got a 10-point nerf, went from 85 to 95. Okay, no problem. That's fine. Snickrot is still good. You're still going to be running him. He's probably not auto-include because that 10 points can actually be a little bit of a break point now, but he is he's still a good model. I don't mind him being costed 95, especially when once per game he can just pick up and go wherever he needs to score you that critical secondary that you can't score otherwise. Also having that loan up aura and stacked with an infiltrator really makes it necessary to deploy a lot of styles of armies. So I think I still like Snickrot. No big deal. Now the Meganobs. Holy crap. I put a little sticker up here for you guys. Pour one out for your homies. The Meganobs are dead. They are officially dead. They are an awful unit. There is no reason to take any more than just 2 as Gadskull's bodyguards. I wouldn't ever run a 6-man squad or a 5-man squad again. They are finito until Games Workshop realizes what they did. These guys went up by 25% in their points cost, on top of getting a dramatic rules nerf. This was brutal. Consequently, what that means is it also dramatically impacts the health of, say, your Bully Boys detachment, because the Bully Boys now are hurting a lot. Because if you're going to take all those units of Meganobs, the points cost of your list might have gone up by, I think, like 230 points. It's absolutely bananas how hard Games Workshop punched the Meganobs, and it really was not warranted. I feel like a lot of people tend to forget that the Meganobs, when you're running the double kill solids, which is generally how we run them, they have 2 attacks. They have 2 attacks. It's okay. So sometimes that unit's not dying, but they're also not killing what they're swinging at. The easiest way to beat the Bully Boys was simply put a bunch of OC on the objective and watch as the Meganobs can't kill anything because they hit on 4s and they only have 2 attacks. But however, you know what? Orks are going to be okay, guys. This is really big for Mega Knobs. I feel sorry for a bunch of guys who are really loving the Bully Boys because I don't see how you can run Bully Boys without any Mega Knobs. Because at that point, you really only have 3 units of knobs, and outside of those 3 units of knobs, you can't proc your stratagems at all. So it really becomes a big challenge for the Bully Boys. I think Games Workshop's going to have to take another look at what they did and see how they're going to fix that. Then we look at the Pain Boy. Okay, I'm cool with this. Pain Boy going from 70 to 80. No problem. Pain Boy you're running 3 of them in every Green Tide list. They were really good. They dramatically increased the durability of the already durable army. Totally fine. 10-point nerf. No big deal. Pain Boss nerf. What the heck is this? I have never seen a Pain Boss. I think I tried running the Pain Boss once in the index where I was running him by himself to heal up Mazrog. But now that Mazrog got huge nerfs, I'm not really thinking that's ever a choice that I would ever make. Why would you ever take Beast Snaggers with a Pain Boss when you could take Beast Snaggers with a Beast Boss? It just doesn't make any sense. Whatever, this affects no one because no one's taking the Pain Boss anyway, but it's like, that's just weird. And then lastly, we have the Weird Boy. The Weird Boy was 55 points, which was admittedly pretty cheap. Going up to 65 seems totally reasonable. No problem with that. Honestly, the only points nerf that I have an issue with is the Mega Knobs, and it's under the context that the Mega Knobs also get a huge rules nerf. Had they gone up that many points, but the rules had stayed the same, I would have reduced the amount of Mega Knobs I was bringing, but I still probably would have brought the 1 brick. And now, just pour one out for your homies, guys. They are gone. So how do we fare overall? Like, where are we at in the meta right now? My prediction, and this remains to be seen with some evidence, and we have a lot of time to gather data, but I think we're a solid B-level army. We dropped from the A tier, and we're now in the B tier. Green Tide and Bully Boys is gone. Green Tide was at like a 57, 58% win rate. They're going to be solidly at that 50% win rate. They're still a good army. They're not bad at all. I think they're fine. We're going to be solidly at that B tier level. So I guess the question is, where do we really pivot? Now, if you guys have been watching the channel, you understand that the army that I like the most right now, or the detachment I like the most, is Warhord, and it's the same. That has not changed. Warhord is still a beast. So let me show you the list that I propose that we run with Warhord. And remember, there's a few more changes that we have to talk about, changes that have happened just because of Pariah Nexus specifically. So when we're talking about things like Green Tide, yeah, okay, Green Tide took some rules nerfs, they took some stratagem nerfs, they took some durability nerfs, but Green Tide is exclusively made out of Battle Line. Battle Line is exceptionally important in Pariah Nexus. So just Pariah Nexus in general also really buffed Green Tide. So even with the little nerfs moving into Pariah Nexus, Green Tide, I think, is in a great freaking place. Sorry for the little like backwards step there real quick. Let's talk about Warhord, because Warhord is where my heart is. Because if you've been playing Bully Boys or you've been playing Green Tide, listen, I'm telling you, I promise you, you have missed the glory that is exploding on 6s. It is so fun. It is the most orcish detachment, and it still hits crazy hard. So this is where I'm at right now. Currently, my Warhord list, I'm going to be running 2 units of Beast Bosses with Beast Snaggers. A Beast Boss with Beast Snaggers is extremely efficient. It's very, very powerful. Now, one of the Beast Bosses has the Cut 'em Up Brutal enhancement. I know what a lot of people are going to say. I actually don't like this enhancement on the Beast Boss. It's just the way points worked out. I was at 1985 and I had 15 points left over. So I slotted it on the Beast Boss. What that does is it will allow him to fall back, shoot, and charge to reproc his devastating wounds. My argument against doing that is typically, well, if he doesn't kill when he charges, he's going to die. So you basically never get to use it. But I literally had exactly 15 points left over, so I threw it on there because there's going to be some edge case scenario. I would never plan on having that enhancement there, but since the points worked out, it's fine. I put it in. Then I'm going to have 3 war bosses, one with Follow Me Lads for the +2/2 move, which is extremely good. Now, of course, that war boss is going to be leading a 10-man unit of knobs because I'm going to get them where they need to be, especially with the new changes from Games Workshop, because remember, there's a big FAQ that came out saying war bosses can no longer get their bonus for attacks if they're inside a truck at the start of a WA turn. I hate it, but it is the rules written. It is correct. It is the way to play now, sadly. So what I have to do with Warhord now is I will always disembark my war bosses the turn before I declare WA. That way, I get my bonus attacks, and they're also on the battlefield, so I can use strats such as Here We Go, which gives me +2 to advance and charge on them. So it's really not the worst thing. Like, you can always play around it, but just be aware that that change has occurred. So I've got 1 war boss with Follow Me Lads, and he's leading a 10-man unit of knobs, and then 2 more war bosses. One war boss is going to be leading a 5-man unit of knobs, while the other war boss is going to be leading a 10-man unit of boys, because boys are still critically good. especially when they're going to be led by the war boss for the +1 to hit. These guys have the sticky objectives ability, which is very, very powerful, making them great late game tools. So I like the unit of boys still. I'm going to be taking them. Then I have one war boss in mega armor with the super cyborg body. If you haven't seen my other videos on him, this guy is a complete legend. He's got a 2-up armor save, he's got a 6-up, he's got a 2-up armor save, a 5-up invuln, and then a 4-up feel no pain thanks to the enhancement. Stack that on top of the fact that he's got 7 wounds with a toughness of 6, and you're in Warhord where you can always make your unit -1 to be wounded. He is an exceptionally tough body for 95 points to be able to shift. He's great at heroic intervening and messing up pylons. He's fantastic for being a menace by himself that can go do whatever he wants, and your opponent cannot kill him with chaff. They have to dedicate real units into him, which they definitely do not want to do because they've got enough pressure to deal with. Then I am going to be keeping Gaz Kulthraka because Gaz is a total monster, guys. I love Gaz. He hits so hard and he really buffs the entire army. We're going to have 2 units of Beast Nagas. Like I said, those are going to be running with the Beast Boss. A unit of boys, one with the War Boss. A 5-mana Flash Gits. The 5-mana Flash Gits will be in the same truck as the 5-mana Knobs so that I can send out the Gits to do what they need to do. For 80 points, those guys give me okay shooting with some actually very good melee. It gives me another unit of bodies that I can do actions with. It's a very flexible unit, and I like them quite a bit. So they'll be running in a truck with a squad of Knobs. And then I've got 2 units of Gretchen, a 2-man unit of Mega Knobs. I know what I said, Mega Knobs are dead, and they are, but this is required just to bodyguard Gazkul, especially so that you can proc Gazkul's +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and you can proc his 5-up crits during the Wa phase, which is just really, really important for him. Then we've got 2 units of Storm Boys, 3 trucks. I am taking all of the Wrecking Balls off of my trucks because now with the changes in the Pariah Nexus and with the Balanced Data Slate, you base your tank shocks off of the toughness value of a vehicle, not the strength value. What this means is the Wrecking Ball, which is really annoying to maneuver because it can give your opponent easy line of sight, it can cause problems with movements. The Wrecking Ball is gone, so it makes it a lot easier for me to move and hide these trucks. So they're no longer taking the Wreck Ball. And then lastly, I've got a 3-man unit of Deffkoptas. This is something I'm super excited about because Deffkoptas, guys, are really good. They've always been really good. The problem is how many freaking points they gave up for Bring It Down. However, a unit of 3 Deffkoptas is still only 12 wounds, meaning that unit of 3 Deffkoptas only gives up 2 points on Bring It Down. So I don't care about my opponents being able to rack up Bring It Down for them because they can't. So I'm very, very excited about that. So this is my Warhord list. Give it a try. Let me know what you think about it. I'm going to give you one more list today, and then I got to run. Let's talk about an alternative. This is the Big Hunt list. Now, the Big Hunt is not as good as Warhord. I think its stock did go up now that we're going to see the decline of Bully Boys and Green Tide being reined in a little bit. But it is not as good as Warhord. However, it does have some really good things that it does. So we're going to start with the core is going to be 3 units of Beast Bosses, all led by Beast Nagas. One of the Beast Bosses, of course, has the Propaganda enhancement to make him damage 3. Because being damage 3 with anti-monster vehicle 4-up and dev wounds is disgusting. So this guy will chew through basically any monster or vehicle in the freaking game. Then we're going to have 1 Beast Boss on Squigosaur with the Glory Hog, which gives him the 9-inch scout move. He is, of course, leading the 8-man squad of Squig Hog boys. These guys are really great, especially with a 9-inch scout move. What this does is it's going to allow them to move up the battlefield or hide, depending on who goes first. Then we have to have Boss Snickrot in this army because that unit of Squigosaur of Beast, that unit of Squig Hog Riders is very easy to move block. So Boss Snickrot is required to infiltrate him so that your opponent can't infiltrate or scout into a position to move block your Squig Hog Riders. So he is required for this army. Then I am trying out for a little while Mozrog Scragbad solo. I don't think I'm not sold on him. However, in this detachment where he can get advance and charge outside of the wall, and he can be getting +1 AP when he's attacking the prey unit, that is pretty cool. So I'm giving him a little bit of a trial run. He's not awful. I'm not sold on him, but he is still pretty chunky with his 4-up invuln and his 5-up Feel No Pain. So we'll give him a whirl. He might get traded out, but for now, he's going to stay in the list. We've got, once I said, we already have the 10 Snagaboys with the Beast Bosses, 5 Flash Kits, doing the same thing as they were doing in the other detachment. A unit of Gretchen, just to generate me some CP, give me some OC. 5 squads of Storm Boys. These are going to be doing all of my actions. The Squig Hog Riders, who are going with the Beast Boss and Squigosaur. 3 Warbikers, also giving me actions, give me a little bit of speed, give me the ability to get to some places. A Kill Rig, I kind of like the kill rig. I'm not sold on the kill rig. However, with the new pivot changes, the kill rig absolutely gets to take advantage of a lot of free movement because the kill rig, his hull overhangs his base a lot, and he generally gets 1 to 2 inches of free movement just from getting the pivots in. So I'm running him for now. I still think he's too expensive, and I think his ability needs to just automatically give people lethals when he uses it, but we'll see. He's not the most optimized choice, but this is how I'm making the big hunt for work for now. And then we've got 2 trucks. Of course, not with the Wrecking Ball either. So these are the 2 lists that I have to share with you guys today. I hope you enjoy them. If you like this content, definitely hit the like and subscribe button, share it with your friends. This is the state of Orks right now. Remember, we are at a B. We are totally fine. The army is good. The army is fine. You can take it to any tournament and do perfectly well with it and have a blast. This is probably exactly where these armies need to be. I do think GW messed up on their crazy nerfs to the Mega Knobs because they really are unplayable outside of just the 2 that you take to Bodyguard Gaz. So I hope they reverse that. Otherwise, I think the Orks are in a great position. Warhord didn't drop a beat. I think Warhord is still a super strong list, and I'm excited to see what the rest of you out there can manage to do with it. Until next time, this is Happy Cruppin', and I hope you all have an amazing freaking day. Crupp on, baby!